And yeah, you should be able to share your screen. The rules, 7 to 8 minutes of presentation, and then we will have the question and answer from all of us. And we'll see how much Aryan can help us out. If not, Aryan, note down your questions and you can find the answers later and give it to the children later on. Okay? Awesome.
Just get me the book and a pen to note it down. Yeah, done.
Sure. So let's get started.
Then ma'am, where to where?
Oh, how to share screen? Got it? Yeah.
No, got it. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'll open that thing. 1 second. Come on, open now. 6, 7.
Where's your presentation?
Oh, yeah.
Got it?
Okay, here it is.
We had a presentation on volcanoes yesterday. Fantastic.
Show
yes.
From the beginning. So, wait, I didn't do that. Wait, 1 second. So, I'm going to talk about earthquakes in my Genius app. What is an earthquake? An earthquake is a natural disaster that involves violent shaking of the ground. So, why does an earthquake occur? So, earthquake occurs because the tectonic plates are just like floating on molten lava, just like a boat floating on water. So, the boat sometimes moves because of the tides. That's what happens with the molten lava and the tectonic plates. So the molten lava moves the tectonic plates, which if two tectonic plates come in contact with each other and they rub against, it causes a vibration, is the thing we feel, the violent shaking of the ground. Earthquake has pros and cons. Earthquakes can be very useful to us because they provide a picture of what's going underground. So they also help us like what are the currents going on in the molten lava, how is it spinning, what's the speed. So earthquakes open a hole, which also helps us do that. Then they can also make oil and gas extraction more efficient. So when we dig down to get oil and gas, right? So instead of that, the earthquake just does the work for us. And in the cracks, we can just send down our pipes and we can pump out the oil and gas. Then it also allows the scientists to monitor the progress of water during the geothermal energy extraction. So, what's a geothermal energy? Geothermal energy is the heat energy which is trapped underground, basically. It's basically a type of heat energy. So, it monitors the process of water, which when water heated, it evaporates, which causes the geothermal energy, which we extract, is called the geothermal energy extraction. The cons of an earthquake. The earthquakes can result in the ground shaking, soil, liquefaction, landslides, fissures, avalanches, fires, and tsunamis. So, in liquefaction, what's a liquefaction? So, liquefaction landslides are basically landslides which happen due to the shaking of an earthquake, which loosens the soil, which makes all of the soil like slip, and the tree's roots can't hold them anymore by the violent shaking. Avalanches, fires. Avalanches happen when earthquakes shake on like snowy areas on mountain snowies. When it shakes, so the snow gathers up and starts to slip down. Fires and tsunamis. Tsunamis happen, everyone knows that when it's the earthquake underwater, like The earthquake and the water moves the water all around, which causes the big waves of a tsunami. Fires, it cuts down many things, and sparks fly, which causes the fire. So these are the pictures of destruction caused by earthquakes. So as you can see, buildings are destroyed, everything is smoking. In the every picture is destruction caused, but also this destruction helps us to renovate and make new buildings, which is good, but it's not totally replacement of the old buildings. It takes a lot of money basically to again develop from the earthquake. Thank you. This is my presentation.
Thank you so much, Aryan. Thank you. That was interesting. I have one comment before others ask you questions. Okay. The comment is when you are writing any text, anything, any word, any text on a slide, make sure that it is easy for others to read as well. Right now, when you had the background picture and you had written the text in black, it was a little difficult to read the text easily. So whenever you make slides, make sure that you always have some kind of contrast between the background and the text color that you use. Okay, that's one.
Okay.
And the second is, you talked a lot about the earthquakes and destruction. The biggest calamity due to earthquake is human life, right? When earthquakes happen, the biggest problem, the biggest issue with earthquakes is lot of people get killed due to the breaking of houses, the ground opening up, tsunamis, everything that is. So something as important as that, you should have mentioned it in the slide as well. Loss to human life, not just buildings. Okay? All right. So with that, Swami, are you trying to come into another? Okay. Yeah. So with that, let's anybody questions open for Aryan about earthquakes? Anyone has a question for Aryan about earthquakes? No question, everything crystal clear. Is it? Okay, I have a question for you then, Aryan. How do you think? Yes, Swami.
Ma'am, I can't hear you.
But how can I help you with that, dear? I can't help you with that. You'll have to check your speaker. So Aryan, I do have a question for you. When we have earthquakes, how do you think we can reduce the destruction caused by earthquakes? What can governments do, especially in countries like Japan? Shankar, no destruction. Especially in countries like Japan, where we have a lot of earthquakes happening every single month. How do you think people can, or the government can, reduce the destruction that is caused due to earthquakes?
Okay, first of all, near the fault lines, they need to be really careful, which causes less destruction.
Okay.
And then inside houses, they can build like more stable foundations.
Okay.
And inside the houses also, like we have open bookshelves and everything. They can cover it. Like you can get straps and everything built into them, and straps holding everything together, and then safety precautions which are taken, and they should make more efficient evacuation routes.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And be ready for any earthquake that comes along.
Fantastic. In fact, in Japan, they have an alert system going around. So the geologists continuously study if there are earthquakes, and they can predict to a certain accuracy if an earthquake is going to come.
Actually, earthquakes can predict other earthquakes too. So
correct.
As I told you, like when the opens up, we can see what's going underground, the flow of the lava. So if the lava is flowing, like the molten rock is flowing this way, then we know that earthquake will be more
Along that
be
line.
yeah, it will be more in that direction.
Right. So those are known as aftershocks. Okay. Swami, you might want to log in again.
Ma'am.
Okay, 1 second. I know, Abir, I will come to you. Also, in Japan, for example, when they have this alert system, what they also do is they have shelters in every street. So these shelters are built with a very strong foundation, and people can go and take shelter under these places when the earthquakes happen, because the buildings may not be able to take the shock of the earthquake, but these shelters are built specially so that they can withstand very high Richter scale earthquakes as well. Okay. Yes, Abhi, go ahead.
The highest earthquake ever recorded was 9.4, right?
9.4 Richter, where was it? I don't recollect where. Do you remember?
I think, I don't remember where was it, but I remember hearing about it. It was 9.4.
Okay, so the usual high, anything above 6 Richter scale is considered high. Japan has had even 7.8, 7.9 Richter scale. I think you're right about 9 Richter scale, but that happens only in specific areas which are highly prone to earthquakes. Okay,
because
yes,
9.4 is very less gonna happen, and it causes the most destruction.
Maximum
like above
destruction.
So maximum is 10, but there's no earthquake ever recorded above 10, but there can be in the future.
That's true. Yes, Abhi, go ahead, please.
And I also wanted to answer the question. I have prepared a project on STEM monsters for this problem called self-balancing buildings, which is quite a futuristic plan where the gravity will be on the bottom when so that when the earthquake arrives, it should be made with a special type of substance which will not break, and when the building will shake, it will again go to its original position.
So it will levitate. When the earthquake happens, will the building levitate?
Yes, ma'am.
It will go off the ground.
No, ma'am, it will not go off the ground. It will only shake and again go back to its original position. Like a self-balancing doll.
Like the self-balancing doll. That's interesting. Did you make a drawing of that? Share it with me.
No, I had prepared a project on STEM monsters quite days ago.
Okay, fantastic. That's interesting. Okay, anyone else?
There was very small like shock that came, like I think 1 month ago. Even I felt it here, but it was very small. I think there was an earthquake. What we think the earthquake came in near like China or somewhere, which a very small tremor came to India.
Is it? I don't think so. It happened in north of India, but I don't think it came to the south of India.
Because we felt it like a small tremor and everything shaking.
Anyone knows of that? Anyone has heard of that? No, right? I heard about Delhi and Nepal, but I did not. Did you know there was an earthquake in Nepal last week, 2 weeks ago? And it was not yes, it was not very destructive. So there is a fault line which runs through the north of India. So that is why Delhi and places around Punjab, Pakistan, they are more prone to earthquakes than the south of India. Okay, anyone else has a question for Aryan? Yes.
So, how can we predict earthquakes, and can we predict earthquakes, and how do they do it?
Okay.
Aryan, I just told you, I just told ma'am, but I'll tell it again for you. So, when an earthquake happens, what scientists do, they study the molten lava's direction before like the earthquake, the land closes. So the molten lava's direction is where most probably the next earthquake is gonna be.
So there are
no one can be exactly sure.
No one can be exactly sure. That's true. So usually what geologists study is the current, ocean currents, because you can predict how the tectonic plates are moving looking at the ocean currents. They also have, as Aryan was saying, they also have instruments buried going deep into the earth to see the movement of the plates, which is also a predictor for earthquakes. However, the accuracy with which earthquake can be predicted is not extremely high. It has improved over the years, but we still cannot predict it very accurately because there can be areas where the pressure is high, but it just doesn't happen. But over many, many years, geologists have an idea of what are the lines, the fault lines that he's talking about, around which earthquakes can happen mostly. And they study those areas. They start, when I say study, it means they observe the movement of the plates and the flow of magma in those areas to understand if there is a pressure buildup in a certain area, or if there's a pressure buildup in a certain area, or if there is some kind of geyser which is showing unusual activity, if there is a current which you cannot explain due to weather. So a combination of all of these is used to predict an earthquake. Okay. Anybody else? So what is the unit of measuring an earthquake? What is the unit used? Richter scale. That's right. A Richter scale. Very nice. Okay. So with that, thank you, Aryan. That was a very interesting overview of earthquakes. With that, we move on to Abhi's presentation. Over to you, Abhi. Maybe you do a slideshow.
Is it visible?
Yes.
So I'm going to talk about Aditya L1, India's first mission to study the sun. So what is Aditya L1? Aditya L1 is a spacecraft to study the solar atmosphere developed by Indian Space Research Organization ISRO and various other Indian research institutes. Aditya L1 was launched aboard the PSLV C57 at 11:50 IST on 2 September 2023, 10 days after the successful landing of ISRO's moon mission Chandrayaan-3. It successfully achieved its intended orbit nearly an hour later and separated from its course at 12:57 IST. So, Aditya L1 was developed by ISRO and other Indian research institutes, and it was launched on PSLV C57 at 11:50 IST on 2 September 2023, 10 days after the successful landing of Chandrayaan-3. It is projected to reach its designated orbit at the L1 of approximately 127 days after its launch, nearly after 4 months.
Abhi, 1 second, if I may interrupt you, is it possible to hold the speaker closer to you because the voice is a little low? Yeah, thank you.
Some facts about the Aditya L1. Aditya L1 is the first space-based Indian mission to study the sun. The name Aditya is derived from the Sanskrit word Aditya, which means sun. It will be orbiting at about 1.5 million kilometers from Earth, means it will not reach till the sun like the NASA solar probe. It will only study the sun at the L1 point. It will study the solar atmosphere, solar magnetic storms, and their impact on the environment around the Earth. It will only study the solar atmosphere, solar magnetic storms, and other such mysteries which is not solved. The L1 in Aditya L1 is a point, Lagrange point, which is stable location where the gravitational forces and of the sun and earth balance each other out. It will reach at the L1 point because it is the most suitable point of the 5 L5 Lagrange points, and it will study the sun safely. The director of the project is Dr. Nigar Sarji. Lagrange point. Technically, at Lagrange point, the gravitational pull of the two large bodies are equal. It is required for a small object to move with them. For two body gravitational systems, there are total 5 Lagrange points denoted as L1, L2, L3, L4, and L5. The Lagrange points for Sun and Earth system are shown in the figure. The Lagrange point L1 lies between Sun and Earth's line. The distance of L1 from Earth is approximately 1% of the Earth-Sun distance. So why should we study Sun? We should study, the scientists have decided to study Sun as they have studied all the planets, and now they should study a star to discover the gas present in it, how does it look. As Sun is the nearest star to us, scientists decided to make a special spacecraft which can go near Sun and study it. It shows several eruptive phenomena and releases immense amount of energy in the solar system, which cause various types of disturbance in the near Earth space environment. So the Earth sometimes releases immense amount of energy in the solar system, which cause various types of disturbances in the Earth space environment, like extreme amount of heat. Various spacecraft and communication systems are prone to such disturbances, and therefore an early warning of such events is important for taking corrective measures beforehand. As there are various spacecraft and communication systems near Sun, so they might know when the Sun is going to emerge a very uh, a very immense amount of heat. If they didn't do that, the spacecraft may be damaged. Thus, the Sun also provides a good natural laboratory to understand the phenomena which cannot be directly studied in the lab. History of Aditya L1. Aditya was conceptualized in January 2008 by the Advisory Committee for Space Sciences (ABCOS). It was initially initiated as a small 400 kg satellite in low Earth orbit, 800 kilometers, with a coronagraph to study the solar corona. An experimental budget of rupees 3 crore was allocated for the financial year 2016 and 2017. The scope of the mission has since been expanded and it became a comprehensive solar and space environment observatory to be placed at Lagrange Point L1. Hence, the mission was renamed Aditya L1. As of July 2019, the mission had an allocated cost of rupees 378 crores, excluding launch costs. Means it might be more expensive because it is excluding the launch cost. The main objectives of Aditya L1 are to study the chromosphere and corona dynamics, observe the plasma environment, providing data for the study of particle dynamics from the sun, the physics of solar corona and its heating mechanism. So as we know that the corona is very hot, so why it is so hot, the Aditya L1 will also study that. To identify the sequence of processes that occur at multiple layers, chromosphere, base, and extended corona, which eventually leads to solar electric events. Magnetic field topology and magnetic field measurements in the solar corona. Drivers for space weather, origin, composition, and dynamics of solar wind. Payload. Aditya L1 is carrying the following 7 instruments. Visible emission line coronagraph. Well, to study the solar corona and dynamics of coronal mass ejections. Solar ultraviolet imaging telescope. SUIT. It is used for imaging the solar photosphere and chromosphere in near ultraviolet light. It also measures the solar irradiance variations in near UV. Solar low energy X-ray spectrometer. So it will be be used to study the X-ray flares from the sun over a wide X-ray energy range. High energy L1 orbiting X-ray spectrometer, HEL1 It will be used
Helios.
Helios. It will be used to study the X-ray flares from the sun over a wide X-ray energy range. Means the solar energy X-ray spectrometers will be used to study low energy range, and the high energy L1 orbiting X-ray spectrometer will be used to study high amount of range, high energy range. It will be also carrying Aditya Solar Wind Particle Experiment Aspect and Plasma Analyzer package for Aditya Papa. It will be used to study the solar wind and energetic ions as well as their energy distribution. Advanced triaxial high-resolution digital magnetometers to measure the interplanetary magnetic fields at the L1 point. So as we know that NASA's Parker Solar Probe has touched the sun and came back. So what is the difference between Aditya L1 and NASA's Parker Solar Probe? The Parker Solar Probe is a NASA space probe launched in 2018 with the mission of making observations of the outer corona of the sun. It will approach to within 9.86 solar radius, 6.9 million kilometers or 4.3 million miles from the center of the sun, and by 2025, it will travel at closest approach as fast as 690,000 kilometers per hour, or 191 kilometers per second, which is 0.064% the speed of light. It is the fastest object ever built by humans. As it was planned to touch the sun, the Parker Solar Probe has been made so fast. The Aditya L1 was launched by ISRO on 2 September 2023, which will study the sun's corona from a distance and carry out various experiments related to the study of the sun's photosphere and chromosphere, particle flux and variations in the magnetic field strength and at the hollow orbit. It will be an observatory spacecraft to constantly study the sun's activity from distance of about 148.5 million kilometers. There is no such thing in this spacecraft. So NASA's Parker Solar Probe was designed to touch the sun and also to research, but the Aditya L1 was only used for research. Thank you.
That was a lot of information. Very comprehensive
I
information.
mostly didn't understand anything.
Yes, so Abid, now you have to give us a very short explanation because there was a lot of information. Now, this is a feedback whenever you make slides. You saw how Aryan made the slides? There was a lot of imagery, there were a lot of pictures. So when one is listening to a talk, imagine if my slides were all written with sentences, you would all sleep off in the first 2 minutes. I would not be able to keep you awake. So whenever you make slides, Abir, make sure that you don't have a lot of text written on the slide. You can always write down what you want to say on a piece of paper and read it out. But on the slide itself, you should try to always have a little bit of a picture and very little text. Only the bullet points.
Main important note.
Yes, only the bullet points should be on the slide. In your case, you were reading out, right? Now, even we can read out the sentence. So whenever you give presentations, it is not a good practice to write whole sentences on the slide. Okay, just write down for example, Aditya L1 versus Aditya L1 versus NASA Space Probe, the Sun Probe. Parker Probe, what you could have done is just point 1, point 2, point 3, and then you could have explained the difference in a sentence which was written on a text in front of you. I'm not asking you to memorize just yet. You are still too young to do that. You can always write it down and read it out. However, make sure for the next presentation that you make, you do not have long sentences written on the slide. Okay? Because we didn't see the pictures. Imagine if you had put the pictures, it would have been so much more interesting for us to see how it looks. For you also, when Aryan was presenting, didn't you like looking at the images? It's nice to look at images. So always try to have images and text. Only the important keywords are there on the slides. Okay, but very good. Who did the research? You? Mama?
I did it and my mama checked it.
Your mama checked it. Okay, combined effort. So she'll also get half of the certificate. She's become your complete full-time assistant, it seems. No? Okay, but good job. Questions? I'm sure there will be questions on this one. Yes, Aryan, go ahead.
Yeah. So I didn't quite understand what is the objective of the Aditya L1.
Very interesting. Can you help us with that, Abir? Speaker.
The objectives of Aditya L1 are mainly to study the solar winds and the heating mechanism of solar corona.
It's okay.
And the
What
layers-
solar winds? What
And the
solar
layers-
winds?
Solar winds are those winds which are containing more heat of the sun.
So because of the heat of sun, there's a lot of change in pressure that happens from the sun to the earth. So there are gusts of heat waves which come from the sun and also reach our earth at certain points in time. These are known as solar winds. They also have ionic particles which can spoil satellites, spacecrafts. So the idea is to understand why these are created and maybe hope to be able to make a system which can predict when these solar winds will be happening so that we can protect our spacecrafts and satellites from getting damaged during those events.
Like an earthquake.
Almost like an earthquake, yeah, but outside the earth. Yes. Okay. Did you get your answer, Arya? Okay. Anyone else has a question for Abir? No questions. How is that possible? Then I'll start asking quizzes on what he presented to everybody. And then you will have to answer me. Agreed? If you don't have question, that means you've understood everything. So I'm going to ask you questions now. Fair? Fair enough?
Wait, I have a question.
Questions?
Now you have a question, okay?
I just got a question.
Yes.
Is the Aditya L1, like when will it approximately finish researching about the sun?
127 days or 4 months.
It will reach in 127 days. His question is, for how long has it been commissioned? Do you know? For how long it is planned to be out there in space?
For the lifetime.
No, you should find out and give him that answer next week, okay? Make a note of the question and you should answer him next week. All right, Abhi? Yeah. Yes, Samhita.
What would happen if the Aditya L1 would not have been launched? I didn't
What would
understand.
have... Okay. Abhi, you have a question. Very interesting one. What would have happened if Aditya L1 was never launched?
That was the same thing I wanted to ask.
So there might be a chance that the sun's heat would rise up, and there might be chances that the spacecraft would be destroyed, and the human would have to be a special type of suit.
I will help Abir on this one, okay? So this question is specially for Samhita and Saket since they had the same question. So I'll answer you with a different question. What would happen if you don't go to school at all? Okay, not school. What would happen if you don't study or read books?
You won't get any knowledge.
Okay. How about you, Samhita?
You won't be able to
You would not
accomplish
know
anything in
what
life.
to do in, like,
Right? So now imagine if we never send out a probe to understand the sun better, what would happen? We would not know anything about it ever. So if something happens
And one more thing
tomorrow,
would happen. We wouldn't know. When would the sun explode. And if the sun exploded without us knowing, we
no,
would
sun
be
is not exploding in our lifetime. That is for sure. However, any scientific inquiry is about gaining knowledge. The fact that we are talking today on the internet over a Zoom call, somebody would have thought, what if we could talk like this without going to the other person's place? It's the same thing about any scientific inquiry. You are trying to gather knowledge about the unknown. So that is the reason why L1 was launched, because we were successful with sending a spacecraft to the moon. So then we realized that what if we could send a spacecraft to study the sun? Maybe we can harness the power of the sun. We have energy problems on Earth. Maybe we can figure out a better way how fusion works. Maybe we can find out why is there global warming? Can we do something about it other than reducing pollution? So it is always about learning something new. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Abhi, will you accept that answer? All right. So with that, thank you very much. That was an interesting talk. How about the others who listen? What did you think of the presentations, the topics? Do you have any feedback for the speakers?
So many sentences in one slide and printed out pictures, which made me feel that there's so much.
There's a lot of information. Okay, so Abhi, he's already gotten that feedback, right? There was a lot of information on each slide. Try to reduce next time when you present. You can have more slides or you can reduce the amount of information that you give. How about the others? Anyone has feedback for Abir or Aryan? No?
Both the presentations were really good.
That's true. The presentations were excellent. Did you enjoy Saket and Samhita?
Yes.
Did you like the presentation?
Yes.
What are you both talking on?
I am talking about bees' role in nature.
Fantastic. That's a very, very interesting one. Yes, Saket, what are you talking about? Angles.
No, natural disasters.
Oh, you're talking about natural disasters. So yours would be a combined thing of volcanoes and earthquakes and tsunamis.
Yeah. It talks
Wow.
about the main events that happen in natural disasters, not everything.
Of course, you cannot complete.
Yeah.
Very
Too
nice.
long.
That will be too long. That is also part of learning, right? When we present, there is always more information than we can ever present. So it is always a good practice to learn how to reduce it to the time that you are given, because you'll never have endless time. It will always be limited, whether in school, whether in class, in a talk, anywhere. Okay, so I had thought of discussing something to end the chemistry module with you today. Since we are very close to 5:55, would you guys have 5 extra minutes so that I can finish talking about the Saket wants to leave?
No,
Saket
no,
is tired. It's
No,
okay.
I'm not
So,
tired.
hmm?
I'm not tired.
Are you
ma'am.
there on Saturday? Were you there last Saturday? No, right? You missed it.
Yes.
Right.
I
So,
wasn't there.
Abid, you have a class after this?
Yes.
All of you have a class.
I have.
What time?
I guess at 6:30 or 6.
Oh, okay. So can we get 5 minutes additional today so that I can complete the topics that I wanted to do? We'll not go into the details.
Yes, ma'am.
But
Just a
I
minute.
want,
I need
yeah.
to get my charger.
Yeah, sure. Is that okay with everybody? I need a thumbs up from everyone because otherwise I'll not do it today. Yes? Okay. Swami, you have a class? No. Okay. Cool. So what I wanted to finish off with today was a discussion to complete the entire chemistry module. So till now, we have been talking about chemistry. We did a lot of experiments, right? So what I want to end with today is something which is, sorry?
Nuclear.
Yes, something which is still a reaction, but it is, you cannot call it a It's a special kind of a chemical reaction. Now, all the reactions that we have talked about today or we have discussed have involved an exchange of...
Only electrons used to like do the reactions. But in
Yes.
nuclear energy, protons and neutrons do the
Absolutely right. So all the reactions that we did today have involved an exchange of... Samita, what has it involved? An exchange of
Electrons.
electrons only, right? Nothing happened to the nucleus. So there are a special case or category of reactions which are known as fusion and fission reactions. As Shankar very rightly said, they are known as nuclear reactions, where the nucleus starts to participate. What is there inside the nucleus?
proton, neutron.
Protons and neutrons, right, Swami? Yes? Okay. Aryan, that's a little distracting. Can we do that towards the end of the class, please? Since we are completing the module, let's not do it now. Thank you. Okay, so next question is, the sun is very, very far away from us, right? The sun is extremely far away from us, but it has a lot of heat that still reaches us and we feel so hot during summers. For those of you who are staying in Chennai, know how hot it gets, right? And places like Rajasthan get even hotter. So what is happening in the sun that gives it so much of heat power, so much of thermal power and heat energy?
It's core.
It's core, but what is the process that's happening there?
So it is sending out light rays. So
no, so what is creating it? Something has to create that light energy and heat energy.
hydrogen.
Fire.
No, it's not fire.
Fire.
It's not fire.
Plasma. Hydrogen.
Plasma.
Hydrogen. It's hydrogen.
Yes. So there is a process called fusion reaction that is happening inside the Earth's sun's core, which is giving it the heat and light. And when we talk of fusion, what we mean is there are two very small atoms which come together to make a slightly bigger atom inside the core of the sun. Because they fuse together, this is known as fusion reaction. So what is actually happening in the core of the sun is there are a lot of hydrogen atoms and they start combining to form a helium atom. The nucleus comes together, fusion happens, and
Process
that
of the
creates
fusion
energy,
causes the heat.
generates the heat energy. Absolutely.
Where
Okay.
does the sun get hydrogen from? The space is vacuum. Then how does the sun get
No,
the
space
hydrogen?
is not vacuum. You're absolutely right. Space is not vacuum. Not vacuum. That's number one. And number two is sun gets. How did the hydrogen become into a ball of fire, ball of heat energy that where fusion started happening? To be honest, we don't have an answer to that yet. None of us, the scientists, do not know. There are theories that the scientists have to say how it would have happened. But honestly, we still don't know how the star was formed. Because your question right now is, how was the star formed? We don't have a clear-cut answer
No,
to that.
that is not my
yet.
question. My question was, where did the sun get its hydrogen from?
Exactly, that's the question. So how was it formed? So when the Big Bang theory happened, there were pieces of hydrogen atoms which came together, but the exact answer is something we still don't know. All we know is that there were events in the universe which forced balls of gases to come together, which eventually one of those formed the sun.
Well, I have
Abhi, you have...
And I don't know the entire theory of the Big Bang.
That's okay. We will discuss that when we do space. That's okay. Big Bang basically says everything in the universe started with a small, teeny, tiny dot
But
No,
how did
it's
that
not an
dot
egg.
get created?
Not an egg.
How did that dot get created? That was always my question.
We don't know yet. Maybe you will find the answer when you grow up.
It breaks my mind because I think the dot
Yes.
is the
Dot.
dot. But what created that something? And the
We
what
absolutely don't know. It's a very interesting question. Abir, you have to say something. You wanted to say something? I can't hear you. Can anybody hear him?
I have a
No.
doubt.
Can't hear you.
I have a doubt to space. Ma'am, I have heard that the movies saw that the spacecraft blast, but as there is no oxygen in space, how will the spacecraft blast? So are they false?
No, no, no. So, space. See, a spacecraft is a combined thing. Inside the spacecraft, you still have gases and an atmosphere where humans are living, right? So, but whether it will catch fire or not, as long as the oxygen is there, it will catch fire. But after that, you're absolutely right. There cannot be fire in space. Okay? You're absolutely right. Did everybody understand the question? Yes? No? It was a very good question. No, he said there is no oxygen in space. You need oxygen for fire. So in movies, they show there is a blast in space. How does that happen if there's no oxygen?
It might. It.
Hmm?
It.
Inside the spacecraft, there is oxygen
There's a
trapped,
little bit,
which
yes.
is
That's
Or
what
maybe-
I answered.
Or maybe it might be in the atmosphere.
There is the atmosphere in space.
there's no
Space is
atmosphere in
outside.
space.
Or
Space
maybe
is
there
outside.
was. Or maybe there was oxygen in the spacecraft or whatever.
That's the thing. So as long as it uses up the oxygen inside the spacecraft, it's fine. But after that, it should not happen. That's why it's a movie, right? Okay. Samita, completely out of tune here today. After a wedding, you're completely lost. Okay, so we will stop within the next 2 slides. I promise that. The reason why I wanted to discuss this is because it is important that you understand that there are the reactions that we have done or we will do involve only one kind of particle. What is that? Electrons, which are
Electrons.
exchanged between atoms. Nuclear fission and fusion, where the nucleus is involved, is also a chemical reaction, but we cannot achieve it under regular conditions.
Now you need
So
to go to nuclear plants and everything.
Yes. So the hydrogen bomb, the atomic bomb, all of these are nuclear reactions, and they create an immense amount of heat, which cannot be ever achieved by a chemical reaction. Okay?
No chemical reaction can achieve it.
No, nothing. It's about 10 million times more heat than what can be generated by a chemical reaction. However, they have its pros and cons. Advantage is a lot of energy. Disadvantage is if you cannot control it, it can wipe out towns. It can be destructive, right? So before I ended the chemistry module, I want you to understand that nuclear reactions are a special class of chemical reactions, right? Although they can give us a lot of energy, it is not easy to achieve and it can have its own disadvantages and advantages. Cool?
Yes.
Okay. So with that, we come to the end of the chemistry module as well. Next. I can't hear you.
Ma'am, the other two presentations we will